Silence is often misunderstood. In a world where everyone is rushing to speak, to argue, to defend themselves, the quiet soul is sometimes mistaken for the weak one. But there is a quiet truth many people do not understand. Silence can carry a power that words cannot hold. There is a strength in the person who does not rush to answer every insult, who does not feel the need to shout in every disagreement, who simply stands with calm dignity while the noise of the world swirls around them. And strangely enough, it is this calm silence that begins to make others uneasy. Because when you refuse to play the game of anger and ego, people can no longer control your emotions. You see, your enemies expect a reaction. They wait for your anger, your frustration, your explanation. They expect you to defend yourself so they can continue the battle. But when you answer them with silence, with composure, with a quiet confidence that needs no approval, something powerful happens. The noise fades, the drama loses its stage, and suddenly your presence speaks louder than any argument ever could. That is the art of silence, a quiet strength that does not beg to be heard, yet commands respect without saying a single word. There is a strange habit in the world. People often measure strength by volume. The loudest voice in the room is assumed to be the strongest. The one who argues the longest is believed to be the one who wins. Yet life quietly teaches a different lesson. Real strength does not always arrive with noise and applause. Sometimes it walks into the room calmly, sits down with patience, and observes the storm without becoming part of it. Silence, in this sense, is not emptiness. It is control. It is the steady hand on the wheel when others are losing direction. Many people speak quickly when they feel attacked. They rush to defend themselves, to explain, to prove that they are right. But the wise understand something deeper. Not every accusation deserves a response, and not every misunderstanding requires a speech. When you learn to hold your silence, you are not surrendering your power. You are protecting it. Words, once spoken, cannot be gathered back. Silence, however, gives you the space to think, to breathe, and to remain the master of your own emotions. Think about the mountains that stand tall against the wind. They do not argue with the storm. They do not shout at the thunder. They remain steady, unmoved, grounded in their own strength, and eventually the storm passes. In the same way, a person who knows the power of silence does not rush to fight every battle thrown their way. They understand that dignity grows stronger when it is not wasted on petty conflicts. There is also a quiet confidence in silence. When you refuse to answer every insult or criticism, you show the world that your value does not depend on the opinions of others. People often expect you to react, to lose your temper, to prove that their words have reached you. But when you remain calm, when you carry yourself with quiet grace, something remarkable happens. The noise around you begins to fade, and those who once doubted you start to feel the weight of your composure. Silence can also reveal the truth about others. When someone is determined to provoke you, they rely on your reaction to continue their game. Your anger feeds their energy. Your argument gives them a stage. But when you choose silence instead, the stage disappears, the performance ends, and suddenly the person who was trying to challenge you finds themselves speaking into emptiness. This is why silence is not weakness. Weakness reacts without thinking, chasing every insult like a spark chasing dry leaves. Wisdom, on the other hand, understands restraint. Wisdom knows that dignity is a treasure too valuable to spend on every moment of conflict. The person who truly understands their worth does not feel the need to shout it into the world. So remember this quiet truth. Strength does not always need a voice. Sometimes it stands calmly, allowing patience, composure, and dignity to speak on its behalf. And in that stillness, a deeper power begins to grow, the kind of power that cannot be shaken by noise, and the kind that earns respect without ever raising its voice. There is a quiet language that every human being understands, even when no words are spoken. It is the language of presence. Long before a person speaks, their posture, their calmness, and the way they carry themselves begin to tell a story. Some people enter a room and immediately feel the need to prove themselves. They talk louder, they explain more, they try to convince everyone of their worth. But there are others who walk in with a quiet confidence, and somehow the entire atmosphere changes without them saying a single word. This kind of presence does not come from pride or arrogance. It grows from something deeper, self-respect. When you truly respect yourself, you do not feel desperate for approval. You do not feel the need to argue with every opinion or defend yourself against every judgment. Your silence becomes steady rather than awkward, calm rather than fearful, and people around you begin to notice that calmness. They may not fully understand it, but they feel it. Confidence has a way of revealing itself through the smallest things. It shows in the patience with which you listen, in the calm expression you hold when others try to provoke you, and in the steady way you carry yourself even in uncomfortable moments. A person who knows their value does not rush to fill every silence with words. They understand that silence can hold strength, that a composed mind speaks through actions, gestures, and presence. Many times, people expect reactions. They expect you to defend yourself when criticized or to become angry when challenged. But when you remain composed, when you simply stand with quiet assurance, something powerful begins to happen. The attention slowly shifts. Those who were waiting for your reaction start questioning their own behavior instead. Your silence becomes a mirror reflecting their impatience, their insecurity, or their need for conflict. There is also a dignity in a calm presence that words often fail to achieve. Words can be misunderstood, twisted, or forgotten, but the impression created by a person's character lingers much longer. When someone carries themselves with grace and composure, people remember that feeling even after the moment has passed. It is the difference between someone who demands respect and someone who naturally earns it. Think about the individuals you admire most. Often, they are not the ones who speak the most, but the ones whose presence feels steady and grounded. They listen more than they argue. They respond carefully rather than reacting quickly. And because of that, when they finally choose to speak, their words carry far more weight. Your presence is shaped by what you believe about yourself. When you walk through the world knowing your worth, you move differently. Your silence is not empty. It is full of confidence, patience, and awareness. People sense that strength even if they cannot explain it. And this is where the real power lies. When your presence speaks louder than your words, you no longer have to fight for attention or respect. Your calmness begins to command it naturally. Without raising your voice, without entering every argument, you create a quiet authority that others cannot easily ignore. In the end, it is not the loudest voice that leaves the deepest mark, but the quiet strength that speaks through presence alone. There comes a moment in life when a person begins to realize that not every challenge deserves a response. The world is full of opinions, criticisms, misunderstandings, and provocations. If you tried to answer every one of them, you would spend your entire life fighting battles that lead nowhere. Wisdom begins when you understand that your voice is powerful, and because it is powerful, it should not be spent on every small conflict that crosses your path. Many people fall into the trap of believing they must defend themselves at all times. When someone doubts them, they rush to explain. When someone criticizes them, they rush to argue. When someone insults them, they feel compelled to respond immediately. But in doing so, they slowly give away their peace. Their energy becomes tied to every small disagreement, and their focus drifts away from the bigger purpose of their life. The truth is that some conflicts are simply too small for your attention. They are like small stones thrown into a vast ocean. If the ocean decided to react to every stone, it would never be calm. But the ocean understands its depth. The stone falls, the water ripples for a moment, and then the surface becomes still again. In the same way, a wise person does not allow every word or action to disturb their inner balance. Silence becomes a form of protection in moments like these. It protects your energy, your clarity, and your dignity. When you choose not to respond to every criticism or accusation, you are not accepting defeat. Instead, you are choosing where your strength truly belongs. You are deciding that your time and peace are too valuable to be wasted on arguments that change nothing. There is also a quiet confidence in walking away from unnecessary battles. It shows that you understand your own worth. People who are deeply secure in themselves do not feel the need to prove it constantly. They recognize that the loudest arguments often lead to the smallest victories. Winning a pointless argument rarely improves your life, but losing your peace in the process can cost you far more. Sometimes the greatest strength is simply refusing to participate in conflict that pulls you downward. When others try to drag you into negativity, silence becomes your way of rising above it. Instead of lowering yourself to the same level of anger or resentment, you remain steady and composed. In doing so, you protect something far more important than pride. You protect your character. Over time, people begin to notice this restraint. They see that you are not easily provoked, not easily distracted by noise or drama. Your silence tells them that you choose your battles carefully. And when you finally do decide to speak, your voice carries far more weight because it is not used recklessly. Life becomes lighter when you understand this truth. You do not have to respond to everything. You do not have to prove yourself in every moment. Some battles are simply not worth your voice. And when you learn to walk past them with calm dignity, you discover a quiet freedom that many people spend their whole lives searching for. There are moments in life when emotions rise like sudden storms. Words are thrown carelessly, accusations appear without warning, and anger begins to spread through the air. In those moments, the easiest thing to do is react. The heart begins to race, the mind fills with sharp replies, and the tongue becomes ready to strike back. But the person who understands the deeper strength of silence knows that reacting is easy, while controlling oneself is the true test of character. Self-control is one of the quietest forms of power a person can possess. It is not loud, it does not demand attention, and it rarely announces itself, yet it becomes visible in the way someone holds their calm when others lose theirs. When anger meets anger, the fire only grows stronger. But when anger meets calm silence, the fire slowly begins to lose its fuel. The person who remains steady in such moments shows a kind of mastery that words alone can never prove. Many people believe strength means speaking immediately, defending every point, and answering every harsh word with an even stronger one. But that kind of strength is often fragile. It depends on emotion, and emotions can easily be shaken. True strength, however, lives in the ability to pause, to hold your silence, and to refuse to let someone else control your reactions. In that pause, you show that your mind belongs to you and not to the chaos around you. Silence in difficult moments is not the silence of fear. It is the silence of awareness. It means you are fully conscious of what is happening, yet you choose not to be pulled into the storm. You observe the situation, you understand the emotions involved, but you keep your inner balance intact. This kind of calmness often surprises people. They expect resistance, anger, or argument, but instead they are met with composure. And that composure carries a quiet message. It tells others that you are not easily shaken. It shows that your peace is not something that can be taken away by a few harsh words or heated opinions. When people realize that their anger cannot provoke you, their attempts to control the situation begin to lose their power. In many cases, your silence becomes stronger than any argument you could have made. There is also a deep wisdom in understanding that emotions are temporary. Anger fades, frustration passes, and words spoken in heat often lose their meaning with time. When you respond too quickly, you risk saying things that create lasting damage. But when you hold your silence and allow emotions to settle, you give yourself the chance to respond with clarity instead of impulse. This is why silence becomes the language of self-control. It reflects discipline of the mind and strength of the heart. It shows that you are guided by thought rather than by sudden emotion. Over time, people begin to recognize this steadiness in you. They see that you are not easily provoked, not easily pushed into chaos. And slowly, without any declaration or display, a quiet respect begins to grow. Not because you fought every battle, but because you proved that your emotions are not ruled by the noise of others. In that calm silence, you reveal a mastery that many speak about, but very few truly achieve. Words have a curious way of multiplying in the air. They rise quickly, circle around a moment, and then fade just as fast. Many people rely on them to defend their pride, to argue their value, or to convince others of their importance. But life has a quiet habit of revealing something deeper. Words may capture attention for a moment, yet actions shape what people truly believe. Over time, it is not what you say about yourself that defines you, but what you consistently do. There are those who spend endless energy explaining their intentions. They promise change, they announce their strength, and they argue passionately about their abilities. Yet the world watches patiently, waiting for something more solid than declarations. A person may speak beautifully about discipline, integrity, or courage, but if those qualities are not reflected in their daily behavior, the words lose their weight. The truth is simple and unchanging. Actions carry a kind of honesty that words alone cannot imitate. When someone doubts you, the natural reaction is often to argue, to defend yourself, or to prove them wrong through explanation. But explanation rarely changes a determined mind. Instead, the most powerful response is often quiet dedication. When you continue working, improving, and moving forward without engaging in endless arguments, your progress begins to speak in ways that words never could. Gradually, the results appear, and those results tell a story that requires no defense. Think of a seed planted in the soil. It does not argue with the darkness surrounding it. It does not complain about the pressure of the earth above it. Instead, it grows quietly. Day after day, beneath the surface, it pushes forward with patience. Eventually, a small green shoot breaks through the ground, and in that moment, the world sees what silent effort has been building all along. In the same way, your actions grow beneath the surface of daily life, slowly forming proof of your character. People often expect confrontation when they challenge you. They expect raised voices, explanations, and endless debates. But when you answer them with consistent action instead, something unusual happens. The argument loses its power. Your dedication becomes the answer they were not expecting. Instead of proving your worth through words, you allow time and effort to reveal it naturally. There is also a quiet dignity in letting your work speak on your behalf. When you stop chasing approval and start focusing on meaningful effort, your energy shifts toward growth rather than conflict. You spend less time trying to win arguments and more time building something real. That shift creates a kind of confidence that does not depend on recognition or praise. Eventually, people begin to notice the difference. They see that while others were busy arguing, you were busy becoming. While others were explaining their intentions, you were quietly turning intention into reality. And without a single announcement, your actions begin to echo louder than any speech. In the end, the world has always respected those who build rather than boast. Words may fill a moment, but actions fill a lifetime. When your deeds become your statement, you no longer need to convince anyone of your strength. It becomes visible in the path you walk, the work you complete, and the steady progress that speaks for you long after the noise of argument has faded. Peace is one of the most valuable treasures a person can possess, yet it is also one of the easiest things to lose. It does not disappear suddenly like a storm that arrives without warning. Instead, it slowly slips away through small moments, through arguments that never needed to happen, through words spoken in anger, and through the endless effort of trying to prove yourself to people who have already decided not to understand you. Many people search for peace in distant places, yet they overlook the simple truth that peace is often protected by the quiet choice not to engage in every conflict. Life constantly presents opportunities to argue. Someone questions your choices, someone criticizes your efforts, someone misunderstands your intentions. In those moments, the urge to respond can feel powerful. The mind begins to gather explanations, the heart begins to defend its pride, and before long, you find yourself pulled into a conversation that drains your energy. What begins as a few words often grows into tension, frustration, and emotional exhaustion. By the time the argument ends, nothing has truly changed, except the calm you once carried within you. This is why silence can become a shield for your inner peace. When you choose not to react to every challenge, you protect something far more important than the need to be right. You protect your clarity of mind. Not every misunderstanding must be corrected, and not every opinion must be challenged. Sometimes the wisest response is simply to step back, breathe, and allow the moment to pass without giving it the power to disturb you. Consider how quickly a calm day can be disrupted by a single moment of anger. One harsh conversation can stay in the mind for hours, sometimes even days. The words echo long after they are spoken, replaying themselves in quiet moments when you are trying to focus on something else. But when you choose silence instead of argument, you prevent those echoes from forming. You allow the moment to fade naturally, rather than carrying it with you. Protecting your peace also requires understanding that you cannot control how others think or behave. Some people will misunderstand you no matter how carefully you explain yourself. Some will criticize simply because it gives them a sense of control or importance. If you try to respond to every one of these voices, you will soon find yourself exhausted by battles that lead nowhere. Silence, in these situations, becomes a way of reclaiming your energy. There is also strength in recognizing that your peace is worth more than temporary victories in conversation. Winning an argument rarely brings lasting satisfaction, but maintaining your calm can bring a sense of balance that stays with you long after the moment has passed. When you refuse to trade your inner calm for the brief satisfaction of proving someone wrong, you demonstrate a deeper understanding of what truly matters. Over time, this quiet discipline begins to shape the way you move through life. You become less reactive, less disturbed by the noise around you. Situations that once provoked frustration now pass by like distant sounds that no longer demand your attention. Your silence becomes a boundary that protects the calm space within you. And in that protected space, something powerful begins to grow. Your mind becomes clearer, your decisions become wiser, and your energy is no longer scattered across unnecessary conflicts. Instead of constantly defending your peace, you begin to live from it. And the world slowly realizes that while arguments may capture attention for a moment, the person who protects their inner calm carries a strength that cannot easily be shaken. There is a curious thing about people who seek to provoke others. Very rarely are they searching for truth. Most of the time, they are searching for a reaction, a raised voice, an angry reply, a defensive explanation. These are the responses that give their efforts meaning. When they see your frustration, they feel a strange sense of victory, as if they have succeeded in reaching inside your mind and stirring your emotions. But when that reaction never arrives, the entire situation begins to change in ways they did not expect. Silence creates a space where their words no longer have an audience. When someone throws accusations or insults and is met with calm stillness instead of resistance, the energy they brought into the moment has nowhere to go. It lingers in the air for a moment, waiting for the conflict it was meant to ignite. But without your response, the spark cannot find its flame. Gradually, the person who expected a confrontation finds themselves standing alone with their own words. In that quiet space, something powerful begins to happen. Without your reaction to focus on, their attention slowly turns inward. They begin to hear the echo of their own tone, the sharpness of their own words, and sometimes even the emptiness behind them. The silence you hold becomes like a mirror, reflecting their behavior back to them. What once felt like confidence may start to feel like noise, and what once felt like control may start to feel like uncertainty. People often prepare themselves for an argument. They gather reasons, opinions, and emotions long before the conversation even begins. They expect resistance because resistance allows them to continue their performance. But when the person they challenge refuses to participate in the conflict, the script they prepared suddenly loses its direction. Without an opponent, the argument has no stage. This is where the quiet strength of silence reveals itself. It does not attack, it does not accuse, and it does not attempt to win through force. Instead, it simply refuses to give negativity the attention it demands. In doing so, it shifts the weight of the moment back onto the person who created the tension in the first place. The conversation that was meant to control you now becomes something they must confront alone. Silence also shows a level of emotional independence that can be deeply unsettling to those who rely on manipulation or provocation. When they realize their words cannot shake your composure, they begin to lose the influence they hope to gain. Your calmness tells them that your emotions are not easily borrowed by someone else's anger. That realization often forces them to reconsider the approach they once believed would work. Over time, this quiet response changes the way people interact with you. Those who once attempted to provoke you begin to recognize that their efforts will not receive the reaction they seek. The noise they create no longer disturbs your balance, and without that disturbance, their power fades. In the end, silence does something remarkable. It removes you from the chaos while leaving others to face the sound of their own intentions. And in that stillness, many begin to realize that the loudest conflict they were fighting was never with you at all, but with the restless noise within themselves. There are moments in life when the world becomes quiet, and many people mistake those moments for emptiness. They believe that if nothing loud or dramatic is happening, then nothing important is happening at all. But some of the most meaningful transformations in life occur in silence. Growth rarely announces itself with noise. It develops slowly, patiently, in spaces where the mind can breathe and the heart can reflect. When life becomes busy and full of constant voices, it is easy to lose sight of yourself. Opinions from others begin to shape your thinking. Expectations begin to pull you in different directions. And before long, you find yourself reacting to everything around you instead of listening to your own inner guidance. Silence creates distance from that noise. It allows you to step back from the pressure of the outside world and return to the quiet place where your true thoughts begin to form. In that quiet space, reflection begins to take shape. You start to see your experiences more clearly. The mistakes that once felt painful become lessons that guide your future decisions. The challenges that once seemed overwhelming reveal the strength they quietly built inside you. Silence gives your mind the opportunity to arrange these experiences into understanding rather than confusion. The mind, much like the body, needs moments of rest in order to grow stronger. A person who is constantly surrounded by noise and distraction rarely has the chance to think deeply. Their attention jumps from one moment to the next without ever settling long enough to gain clarity. But when you allow silence into your life, your thoughts begin to slow down. You notice details you once ignored. Ideas begin to connect in ways they never did before. During these quiet moments, your inner strength also begins to take shape. Without the pressure to respond immediately to the world around you, you gain the ability to observe your emotions rather than be controlled by them. You begin to understand your fears, your motivations, and your desires with greater honesty. This awareness quietly strengthens your mind, preparing you to face challenges with greater confidence. Silence also provides space for preparation. Many of life's greatest achievements are built long before anyone else can see them. Just as a tree grows its roots deep beneath the soil before its branches reach toward the sky, people often develop their greatest strengths in moments that appear ordinary and quiet. While others are distracted by constant noise and competition, you are building patience, wisdom, and resilience beneath the surface. These quiet periods are not pauses in progress. They are the foundation of it. They allow you to gather your thoughts, refine your goals, and understand the direction you truly want to follow. When the time comes to act, you move forward with greater clarity because your decisions are guided by reflection rather than impulse. Over time, you begin to realize that silence is not something to fear or avoid. It becomes a place where your mind sharpens and your confidence deepens. The stillness that once seemed empty now feels full of possibility. Within it, you prepare for challenges that lie ahead and develop the strength needed to overcome them. And when the moment finally arrives to step forward again, the growth that formed quietly within you begins to reveal itself. What the world sees as sudden success or strength is often the result of long periods of silent preparation, moments where no applause was heard, yet everything important was quietly taking shape.